What if all the ice melted? Sea levels would rise 70 meters, coastlines vanish, cities flood, and new seas form.
Let's dive into a question that sounds like it was ripped straight out of a Hollywood disaster movie. But here's the thing, the science behind it is very, very real. What would actually happen if all the ice on Earth just melted? So yeah, let's just imagine for a second. What if all the ice on our planet just vanished? It's a pretty extreme thought experiment for sure, but by exploring it, we can get a much better handle on the delicate systems that actually keep our world running. So, let's get into it. Okay, first things first, we need to wrap our heads around the sheer scale of what we're talking about. There are an estimated 5 million cubic miles of ice on Earth, and that's not just the polar ice caps. We're talking about Antarctica, Greenland, every single glacier, all of it combined. It is a truly mind-boggling amount of frozen water. So what happens if all that ice thaws out? Well, the first, most dramatic effect is a pretty catastrophic rise in global sea levels. We are talking about a jump of around 70 meters. That's 230 feet. To put that into perspective, that's high enough to completely swallow a 21-story building. And this brings us to our first huge consequence, the complete and total redrawing of the world map as we know it. I mean, we're not just talking about losing a bit of beach here and there. We are talking about entire cities, even whole countries getting wiped off the face of the Earth. You know, the science educator Bill Nye put it perfectly. The human cost is almost impossible to imagine. The world's biggest centers of culture, of money, of population are coastal cities. They'd be the first to disappear, leaving a massive chunk of humanity with nowhere to go. So, which places would be lost? Let's take a quick and kind of grim tour. First up, historic capitals like London. Centuries of history, just completely flooded by the River Thames and the North Sea. Gone. Then you've got the financial heart of the modern world, New York City. Wall Street would literally become a waterway as the Atlantic Ocean just rolls right in. Hawking over to the Pacific, Tokyo, a sprawling megacity, home to nearly 40 million people. Its incredible density and amazing infrastructure would just be consumed by the ocean. And what about the global economic powerhouse of Shanghai, home to over 24 million people? It would be completely submerged. And in Africa, the ancient metropolis of Cairo would watch the Mediterranean Sea surge up the Nile Delta, swallowing the city whole. And it's so important to get this. We're not just losing cities. Entire low-lying countries, like Bangladesh, home to over 160 million people, and the Netherlands would be wiped off the map completely. But here's where things get really wild. The consequences go so much deeper than just the coastlines. The planet itself would be fundamentally changed. Let's look at how this incredible shift of mass would throw the very physics of our world completely off balance. Okay, this is gonna sound nuts, but the length of our day would actually change. By moving trillions of tons of water from the poles down towards the equator, we'd change the Earth's center of gravity. It's kind of like a figure skater spinning. When they stick their arms out, they slow down. The Earth would do the exact same thing, and our days would get longer. Next up, let's talk about the planet's circulatory system. No, really, it has one. It's called the thermohaline circulation. Think of it as a massive ocean conveyor belt that carries warm water from the tropics up to the poles, and it's absolutely crucial for regulating our climate and all of marine life. See, this whole system runs on a really delicate balance of temperature and salt. Cold, salty water is dense, so it sinks at the poles, and that's what drives the current. But if you suddenly dump a massive amount of cold, fresh water into the mix, well, you dilute the salt, the water doesn't sink anymore, and you've basically just jammed the engine of the entire conveyor belt. And the result? The system just breaks. The consequences would be chaotic and extreme weather all over the globe. For instance, Europe, which is kept pretty warm by the Gulf Stream, could, paradoxically, plunge into a much colder, harsher climate, while other parts of the world would get hit with insane droughts and heat waves. So, with the coastlines gone and the climate in total chaos, what happens to the survivors? Well, this is the human fallout, a desperate, worldwide scramble for resources and a safe place to live. Just try to wrap your head around this number. Over 3 billion people. That's almost 40% of the entire world's population who live on or near a coastline. Every single one of them would become a climate refugee, kicking off the largest mass migration in human history. And the crises would just cascade. Saltwater would seep into freshwater supplies. Ancient ice could release trapped toxic chemicals or even dormant microbes we have zero immunity to. With coastal farms and ports underwater, food chains would collapse, sparking brutal fights over what little land and resources are left. It's a pretty sobering question to ask yourself. In a world where the maps are all wrong, where every coastline you've ever known is just gone, where would you go? Where would you even start to look for safety? Well, the new centers of civilization would probably pop up inland and way up high. Think about places like Denver, Colorado, the huge Andes mountain range in South America, or the mountainous parts of Central America. These areas would become the new prime and probably the most fought-over real estate on the planet. Now, after all that doom and gloom, it's really important to pull this back to our current reality. The overnight melt we've been walking through is a thought experiment. The real-world's process is what scientists call the long thaw. And this is the vital context. We're already seeing the first signs. The planet is already warmer. The actual geographic poles are physically shifting faster than they used to because of this water redistribution. Scientists figure a total melt at the rate we're going would take over 5,000 years. So it's not a sudden apocalypse, but a very, very long story. Which leaves us with one final, unavoidable question. A story that takes 5,000 years to play out still has a first chapter. And the real question this whole thought experiment forces us to confront is this: are we writing that chapter right now?
Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and press the bell icon. That way you'll never miss an update. Thanks for watching.